Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something pretty wild, the Wi-Fi hacking arms race. It's this non-stop fight between the folks trying to keep your connection safe and, well, the ones trying to bust it wide open. I mean, think about it. We all use Wi-Fi constantly, right? Phones, laptops, smart TVs, everything's connected. We just hop on without a second thought. But have you ever really stopped and wondered, just how safe is that connection? All right, so let's get into it. We're going to start by looking at this really powerful and kind of famous set of tools called Aircrack-ng. Now, this thing is a whole suite of software that's designed to test and, yeah, in the wrong hands, to completely break Wi-Fi security.
It's really the classic example of a double-edged sword, It can capture all your network traffic, it can crack passwords, it can sniff out weaknesses. But who's using it and why they're using it, well, that changes everything.
So on one side, you've got the good guys, the ethical hackers, or white hats as they're called. These are the people who use tools like Aircrack-ng to find security holes so that they can be patched up. And they have one absolutely critical thing going for them. They have permission.
And that's it, right there. The whole difference between a security pro and a cybercriminal boils down to that one little word, permission. It's not about the tools they use or even the clever techniques. It all comes down to consent.
So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to trace this insane cat and mouse game of Wi-Fi security. We'll start with the fragile beginnings with WEP, then we'll get into the arms race of WPA and WPA2. And finally, we'll look at the supposedly uncrackable WPA3 and the shocking flaws that proved, nothing's ever really perfect.
So where did this all begin? Well, the very first try at securing our wireless networks, let's just say from a purely mathematical perspective, it was doomed from the start.
The idea was pretty straightforward, right? They just wanted to make Wi-Fi as secure as plugging in an old-school Ethernet cable. But as security researchers found out pretty quick, the way they did it had this one massive, unfixable flaw.
Okay, so the problem was basically just bad math. WEP used this teeny tiny digital key, so small that on a busy network, it had to be reused over and over again. So an attacker could literally just sit there, listen in, collect all those repeated keys, and then poof, reconstruct the password. WEP wasn't just weak, it was mathematically guaranteed to fail.
So with WEP being such a spectacular failure, it kicked off this huge security arms race. The Wi-Fi Alliance basically scrambled to create something stronger to replace it. And that gave us WPA, and then its much, much tougher successor, WPA2.
You can really see how fast things moved. WPA was, well, it was a quick fix, a band-aid really. But the real game changer was WPA2. It brought in something called the Advanced Encryption Standard, or AES for short. And this thing was so good, so effective, that it became the gold standard for protecting our Wi-Fi for more than a decade.
But here's the thing. Even the mighty WPA2 had a chink in its armor. It was vulnerable to what's called an offline dictionary attack. Basically, a hacker could grab the initial connection handshake and then take it offline to just hammer it with password guesses using powerful computers. And that problem led to the creation of what was supposed to be the final boss of Wi-Fi security, WPA3.
So what made WPA3 so special? Well, it introduced this whole new way of connecting called SAE. And instead of just, sending your password out there, it uses this really clever process called the dragonfly handshake to prove you know the password without ever having to reveal what it is.
So get this, your phone and your router can both prove to each other that they know the secret password, but the password itself never actually travels through the air. This was huge. It completely slammed the door on those old attacks that made WPA2 vulnerable. It's a really, really elegant solution.
So, with a system this strong, everyone thought WPA3 was basically perfect. It really looked like the security arms race was finally over. And then, a couple of researchers, Matthew Van Hoof and E.L. Ronan, came along and discovered a whole series of devastating flaws.
I mean, this was the entire promise, right? The very foundation of WPA3 security. And this quote from the researchers who broke it, man, it just perfectly captures how confident everyone in the industry was about this new standard.
But it turned out that confidence was, well, a little misplaced. These researchers found brand new ways to attack the dragonfly handshake itself.
They gave their collection of attacks a cool name, Dragonblood. And what they found was wild.
they could actually trick modern devices into downgrading to the weaker, older WPA2. And even crazier, they found ways to get tiny little hints about the password just by measuring the microscopic differences in how long a router took to respond. It's a classic side-channel attack. And the result of all this? It was staggering. By exploiting these flaws, breaking into a WPA3 network wasn't just possible, it was shockingly cheap. We're talking about $1. For about $1 worth of computing time on Amazon's cloud, an attacker could blast through all the common password lists, completely undoing the very security WPA3 was built to deliver.
And this is where the whole story comes full circle. See, the researchers who discovered Dragonblood, they weren't malicious. They were trying to make Wi-Fi safer for everyone. But using these exact same tools without getting permission first, that crosses a very clear and very serious line.
The only thing that separates a security expert like Matthew Van Hove from a common criminal is that single word we talked about at the start, permission. Without that explicit written consent, you're not a researcher, you're just breaking the law.
And we're not talking about a slap on the wrist here. Every single state in the US, plus federal laws like the big one, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, they all have rules on the books that make unauthorized computer access a serious crime. We're talking major fines and even prison time.
So this whole story of Wi-Fi security, from the busted lock of WEP all the way to the cracked armor of WPA3, it just proves one thing. This arms race, it never really ends. For every new wall we build, someone out there is already figuring out how to tear it down. So maybe the next time you connect to Wi-Fi, it's worth asking yourself, who's winning the race for your data today?